and welcome to another action-packed, exciting hour of the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Re-Watch-Along Project. This is podcasting the way it used to be and the way you like it. This show is a production of the Something Else Podcasting Network, and it is episode number 048 of Smoky Mountain Wrestling from December 26, 1992, taped November 23rd, 1992, at the Clairfield Elementary School in Clairfield, Tennessee. My name is Aria, and welcome to the show. So it is the final episode of 1992. We are officially done the first calendar year of Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and we've got quite the show here for you this week. In case it's the first time you've ever checked out the Smoky Mountain Re-Watch-Along Project, what we do, it is really quite simple. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, the so-so, the okay, the great, the stupendous, the amazing, the one-of-a-kind, the out of this world, the stuff that you've never seen before, the stuff you've seen a million times, the good, the bad, the ugly. We watch some matches, we talk about some angles, we listen to some interviews, and ultimately we just have some fun for an hour. Now, I do want to make a quick announcement. In case you're unaware of this, the Something Else Podcasting Network has re-expanded. You might recall back in the day we used to play on Spotify and 8 million other podcasting platforms, and then we stopped a little bit, but we're back. So you can listen to this fine podcasting program on almost every single podcasting platform that you enjoy, except for TuneIn Radio. For some reason, they're not accepting new podcasts right now. However, we have an RSS feed. It is up across Spotify, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast. It's all over the bloody place. iHeartRadio. Just check it out, subscribe, listen. Personally, I find it easier to do it there than through YouTube. But hey, you know, we're still on YouTube. We're still on angrymarks.com. It's just something else that you can listen to something else on. So let's not delay it anymore. Let's dive right into the start of the show. Let's go to Bob Caudle and Dutch Mantell, who are going to tell us everything we're going to talk about on this week's show.
Hi, wrestling fans. Welcome to another action-packed hour of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Wrestling the way it used to be and the way you like it. I'm Bob Caudle, along with my tag partner, Dutch Mantell, right here. And fans, we got a great hour in store for all your wrestling fans this week. It's an action-packed hour. We're going to see the Dirty White Boy, Tracy Smothers, the Wild-Eyed Southern Boy, and the Stud Stable all in action. We're going to have a special interview with Tim Horner. And Dutch, what about our big main event this week?
Our big main event today, Kevin Sullivan is going to be stepping in the ring against Dixie Dy-no-mite. Should be an exciting time today.
All right, what about Down and Dirty with Dutch?
I'm going to take a little break today. I'm sorry I don't feel good. Besides, the guy's not acting right in doing my segment.
Oh, they're not?
No.
All right, and fans, not only that, of course, when we left you last week, an unscheduled match had just broken out between the Rock and Roll Express and the Heavenly Bodies. We kept our cameras rolling. We got the action on tape. So first, let's take a look at how it started.
Okay. So today we've got a whole bunch of people in action. We have a special interview with Tim Horner, who, if you recall, has stolen the Smoky Mountain title. And he does not want to give it back because he claims he's the actual champion, even though White Boy got his foot on the ropes. And we're going to see how that goes from here. We're not going to have a Down and Dirty with Dutch today. Sad face. But we do have Kevin Sullivan versus Dixie Dy-no-mite in the main event. Now, you might recall last week's show. It went off the air in the middle of a Rock and Roll Express Heavenly Bodies match. Actually, saying it went off in there in the middle of the match is kind of pushing it because it went off the air about 90 seconds into the match. So we come back here and we're gonna pick up the match pretty much right from where it ended last week. So it's the Rock and Roll Express, the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champions, versus the Heavenly Bodies with Jim Cornette and Killer Kyle. Tom locks on a chin lock, which had the fans chanting rock and roll, and Dutch explaining what a chin lock can do and to not just take the move lightly. And I think we've talked about this before because they mentioned it on Mid-South. yeah, these things are rest holds. We know it. We've been wrestling fans forever. However, you need to explain to the fans why we're randomly doing a chin lock here in the middle, why it's something to pay attention to, why it's something important. So this way, when, actual wrestling occurs, it doesn't lead to fans revolting on the match because now they're being educated on what's going on in this match, what's going on, you know, and why it's important to be paying attention to it. Morton fights hard to get to the corner, but he kept being cut off. I know this will come as a shock to everybody listening, and I hope you're all sitting down for what I'm about to tell you. And please, if you're driving heavy machinery, pull over right now. Like, just stop driving heavy machinery. I've got a shocking take that you do not want to be, doing anything that could cause harm to yourself or others as you prepare for this breaking news that I'm about to share with you. All right, are you ready? Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express was really good at wrestling. Everyone's head just exploded, I'm sure. So Morton blocks a suplex, hits one of his own, and makes the hot tag. We break down into a four-way, and Killer Kyle is sent around the ring, but Morton drop kicks him off the apron. Cornette's now on the apron, but he gets punched off of it. Gibson and Dr. Tom collide. Out come Fuller and Golden of the Stud Stable, who grabbed the tennis racket and threw it into the ring. Now, Dr. Tom was much closer to the ropes and to the Stud Stable than Robert Gibson was, but sometimes your aim is just a little off, and the racket is thrown into the ring, but it's further away from Dr. Tom than typical. So by the time Tom runs around and grabs it, Gibson is recovered. He's rolled Tom up for the 1, the 2, and the 3. And so, yes, the Rock and Roll Express, the tag team champions, get another win here on TV over the Heavenly Bodies. And of course, Caudle is here to question whether or not the Stud Stable aim was off. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. So we go to our next match. It is Danny Lightbear and Reno Riggins versus the Stud Stable, the aforementioned Stud Stable. Now, of course, we've come back to live action. So we're not watching, quote unquote, last week's match. We're watching, quote unquote, this week's match. Stud Stable have Dutch Mantell, who, of course, left the announce desk to go be in the corner of his stablemates. Caudle says that Dutch is not an official Stud Stable member yet, despite, what they seem to always indicate. Cornette joins the announce desk to first say that Ico Pro, which he mentioned last week, he's taking Ico Pro to train for his matches, the matches that he had this weekend that they're currently on at Christmas Chaos. However, Ico Pro has given him a runny nose and has not helped his muscle development. This is not a good commercial for Ico Pro. Not that it was supposed to be. Corny is mad because he did not remember asking for assistance when wrestling the Rock and Roll Express. He said the Heavenly Bodies don't need assistance, that they can take care of themselves. And they bring up again what they've brought up a few times. Fuller and Golden, they aren't big stars, they're local. They're local wrestling stars. They're local legends. And Cornette enjoys seeing them here in the preliminary matches before the Heavenly Bodies wrestle in the main events of the show. He then rips on Dutch for trying to be a manager and said how you see it's easier to be a broadcaster than a manager. Cornette compares the Rock and Roll Express stealing the tag team titles to Horner stealing the Smoky Mountain title. During what is essentially a 5-minute Jim Cornette promo, there's a match going on, as I mentioned, and Fuller submitted Lightbear with a wrist lock, and Cornette quickly leaves. Now, I would say, that's worth going out of your way to check out the, Jim Cornette 5-minute diatribe about the Stud Stable. And of course, if you watch us on our YouTube page, we play the video of Smoky Mountain Wrestling at the end, typically. I say typically because I may not be posting those anymore, but we'll get to that if we need to. Anyway, back to Coddle, who's moved from the back of the desk to the front of the desk, and the stud stable is coming over to opine on what's going on.
And here they are. Here's Jimmy Golden, Robert Fuller, the stud stable.
Hey, I've seen Jim Cornette sitting over here talking to you.
He said,
what he's having to say about us.
Cornette just said that he didn't remember asking for any help.
Boy, that's gratitude for you, would you, Lord? You'll take a look at them out there, brother. They wasn't getting the job done at all. We merely come out there to try to help the situation a little bit, and that's the gratitude that you get from Jim Cornette. What about our title match? That's the last you're going to see us try to do anything for Jim Cornette. It's something maybe that he don't like we'll be doing next time. Yeah. I want to say this, though. Rock and Roll Express, title holders, champions, that's what we want is belts, and that's who we're going to be coming after. Boys, it's not going to be just beat you. It's no easy way out. You're going to give up. Everybody is going to know clearly who the winners are because you slobs are going to quit for us.
All right, fans, there you have it, the stud stable. We'll be back. We'll have more right after we take this time out.
So, nothing tremendous. It furthers the situation going on with the stud stable and, the Heavenly Bodies with the Rock and Roll Express in there. Golden points out, look how ungrateful the Heavenly Bodies are. All they were doing was trying to help, and, they're not appreciating it at all. And the whole point is they want the tag team titles too. They feel that they're worthy of being the champions. And, the stud stable, they have won far more than they've lost since coming into Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So we'll see, how that goes from here. From there, they recap the rules of the Beat the Champ TV title that was announced last week. In case you didn't listen, what's going to happen in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a 4-way elimination match here on television. And the 4 people in the match are going to be drawn completely at random out of a hat. The winner of that match becomes the Beat the Champ TV title and wins $1,000. Then every week on TV, they will wrestle a new challenger. The winner of that match gets $1,000. If you retain the title for 5 weeks, you retire as champion and get a $5,000 bonus. And yeah, that's it. You have to win by pinfall or submission, a count out or disqualification, even if the champion who gets counted out, even if the champion who gets disqualified, it's still a win for the champion. So, as they say, it's important to beat the champ. From here, we go back to the ring. Tracy Smothers versus the Dark Secret. And Tracy Smothers, as we've mentioned, he's a man of the people. The fans love him. No matter, young, old, male, female, boy, girl, somewhere in between, everyone loves Tracy Smothers. By and far, our number one babyface. And, it's not even close. Especially when you have, Horner right now is either number 2 or number 3, depending on how you look at Primetime Brian Lee at this point. So it's yeah. Tracy Smothers is here, and I know you can't see me, but my hand is way above my head. It's as outstretched as I can. And the next baby face, whether it be Horner or Primetime Brian Lee, is here. And I'm pointing to just below my chin. So, it's a big gap, and I'm a tall person, so it's, about 2 feet of arm length here. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. I don't know, I need a ruler maybe next time I do that. Anyway, if this was anybody else, I'd say they were trying too hard to get over, but this crowd would love Tracy if he came out in New York Yankees gear. Well, maybe not quite that, but you get the point. Dark Secret, as we've mentioned in previous weeks, is Road Dogg under a mask. Secret does better here than he did last week against the Rock and Roll Express. Last week, he pretty much lost the second he got in the ring, while this week he holds his own for a few minutes. He claims Tracy's pulling his tights. Of course, Tracy is such a straight arrow and such a actual gentleman wrestler, as opposed to Mr. Ron Wright. He would never do such a thing. Smothers misses a drop kick, but Secret misses a top rope elbow, and Smothers wins with his top rope reverse elbow. I'll tell you what, it looks a lot better when Tracy Smothers does it than that time Chris Jericho did it on AEW. So after his big win, Tracy Smothers goes to the desk and he wants to talk to Bob Caudle.
Here we are with Tracy Smothers, the wild-eyed Southern boy. Tracy, I tell you, you just keep piling up the wins here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. The fans love it. And I talking over there with Dutch, I know you got championships in your eyes.
Man, I'll tell you, Bob, I'm climbing that ladder.
Yes.
I'm going to climb the great Smoky Mountain itself if I have to, because I'm a Southern-born, Southern-bred thoroughbred. I want to get in that winner-take-all TV title tournament. I want to prove to myself and to every man, woman, and child in Clairfield, Tennessee, and the millions of people that watch the fastest rising wrestling company in the United States of America, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Tracy Smothers is here to stay. I'm not here to play. I ain't playing no games or talking no jive. I'm American by birth, and I'm Southern by the grace of God, and darn proud of it. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
All right.
What a nice, upstanding man. So he's climbing a ladder. He says he wants to be in the TV title tournament. Apparently he doesn't watch a show because, again, the TV title is a blind draw, and thus he doesn't have to enter himself. He's already entered. Anyway, he's darn proud of being Southern. Darn proud, damn it. All right. So there is a famous moment in Smoky Mountain Wrestling that is coming up actually in 2 weeks. It involves Tim Horner. And if, you've ever listened to Jim Cornette rant about Tim Horner, you know exactly what that moment is. Anyway, what I forgot happened was what is the next thing we're going to be talking about. So as we've mentioned before, Tim Horner stole the Smoky Mountain title, a few weeks ago after his match with Dirty White Boy, claiming he won, even though White Boy got his foot on the ropes. Bullet Bobs were trying to get the belt back, and Tim Horner has been evading him every which way. So we're going to play here a video. First, it's going to start with Bullet Bob cutting a promo with an update or lack thereof and getting the title back, which will then go to a pre-taped Tim Horner promo. And golly gee, this is going to be one to talk about in 3 minutes.
Fans with us right now, Smoky Mountain Commissioner Bob Armstrong. Commissioner, I just want to ask you, has there been any progress in return of the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Championship belt from Tim Horner?
No, I've asked Tim about it. I've looked in the dressing room myself, and Tim says he doesn't know where the belt is. So what am I going to do, Bob? I'm doing the best I can. I know Tim's got a legitimate gripe about this, but he's not the champion. The foot was on the rope no matter who put it there. And I think we have some words now from Tim Horner. Let's see what he has to say about it.
All right, here we go, fans. Listen.
I want to take this time and bring my little buddy out here. This is JT. Me and JT, we become pretty good buddies the last few months, ain't we, buddy?
Yeah.
That's right. JT and I, we found out we had a few things in common. We both had a few problems these past few months and some troubles and some hard times. And, my trouble started with a Dirty White Boy. I ended up with a noose around my neck and a beer bottle over my head. And just the matches themselves really took a toll on my body. I've been beat and bruised, and, I thought, gosh, I've got a lot on me. Then I looked at my buddy here, and the problems he's had. He had to go to Kentucky and have some serious surgery done. And he came through the surgery real good, but he got some complications after the surgery, and we almost lost my little buddy. But he's here. He's doing good. The doctor says he's doing great. And thanks to the good doctors and friends and prayers and family, he's still here. And me and him, we may even be tag team partners one day. Who knows? But me and the little buddy here, we had a little secret nobody knew about. He told me, he said, I want you to win that belt for me. And I said, I can't make any promises, but I'll do the best I can. Well, a few weeks ago, I became the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion. It was a proud day in my career. It made this little fella's dream come true. And it's nice. I found out something through all this that, it's nice to win awards, and it's nice to win trophies, and it's nice to even win a belt. But there's a lot more things important to life than winning awards. It's nice, don't get me wrong, it's nice to be noticed and nice to win awards. But this little fella right here means more to me than any belt I could ever win. And I don't care what I have to go through. I decided that I was going to make this little fella's dream come true. And now the commissioner's office of Smoky Mountain Wrestling says we got to give this belt back. And whether we give it back or whether we don't, at this point it just doesn't matter. Because in my heart I know I'm the Smoky Mountain Heavyweight Champion. I am the champ. And in the fans, they know I'm the champ. And JT here, who's the champ, JT?
I am.
He's the champ, and I'm the champ, and that's all that matters.
Oh boy. So JT is a, small child, like 7, 8, 9 years old, something along that line. And as they've mentioned, and, he's a child who's had a lot of health issues. He's had, surgery, and he's one of those kids that, they took care of. They would, bring to the event. Pardon me. They'd bring to the events. They give him, some merchandise, let him meet the wrestlers. And, it's one of those things where it's like everyone kind of took him in and, made a big deal about it. And, it's a nice thing, especially for your local wrestling company to do, and it's really great of them. Horner claims that he didn't realize how big of a deal that this would be, and he didn't realize, doing anything wrong. But here he is with the kid, and they're sitting on a couch, and the kid's got the belt in his hand. And Horner is basically saying that, he's telling us the story of the child, and you heard it all. And Horner's cutting a promo saying that the kid wanted Horner to win the belt for him, and that Horner said he made the kid's dream come true by winning the title. He said there are things that are more important than titles and awards, and that was making this kid's dream come true. But now Bullet Bob wants to come take the title from him, and that everyone knows who the real champ is. And of course, JT goes against the script at the end by saying that he's the champ. Holy fuck. I know we have the famous moment coming up. It's actually coming up in 2 weeks, where Bullet Bob's going to take the title back from, Horner, and it's a whole big thing that we'll get into. But to be perfectly honest, like, watching this, I'm more surprised that Cornette saw this promo and let it play, because it seemed like you were setting things up. You were setting up for what was going to happen in 2 weeks. It's like almost like now it's like, what the hell else were you going to do? Because the whole point of this promo is Horner said he's giving the title belt to this sick child. And now Bullet Bob wants to take it away. It's like, motherfucker. It's like, he shouldn't have cut the promo, but it's like, and in many ways, it's like, in a lot of ways, this is like one of Horner's best promos. In many ways. Because it's like, he was, telling this true story, because, this child really is going through these health issues. And, he wants to use it as motivation to win the championship and be the champion. And in that way, it's a fine thing to do, but the way they're setting it up, it's like, you were setting it up for trouble. And airing this promo, it's like, I'm sorry, like, they should have reshot it. And apparently reshooting Tim Horner promos is not something new. So it's like, basically, that shouldn't have aired. It's like, you were you were asking for trouble. It's, and this is obviously not the same league, but, when AEW Collision started last year, and Punk cut his promo basically ripping on everybody. And I said that, this is going to set up more bullshit than what should be swept under the rug at this point. And sure enough, it led to more trouble. But, so, this is something to keep an eye out in 2 weeks. Because, yep, spoiler alert, in 2 weeks, there's the big confrontation. But before we get to there, let's finish this week's show off. First of all, the champion is in the ring, the actual Smoky Mountain champion, Dirty White Boy, with Mr. Ron Wright, going one-on-one with Paul Lee. White Boy ran right after Lee, kicked his ass, and won with the Buck Snort Blaster in a match that lasted just long enough for Mr. Wonderful to cut a promo at the announce desk. Normally, when I say they got in no offense, I mean they got a punch in, but Paul Lee got in no, as in zero, offense. So back to the announce desk for a Dirty White Boy, Paul Orndorff, Ron Wright promo.
We're going to get to Dirty White Boy and Mr. Ron Wright, his manager out here. The White Boy, who of course is still the Smoky Mountain heavyweight champion, minus that championship belt that Tim Horner still has somewhere. But why would you guys want to take it out and put all of that abuse on a young man like that in the ring, like you just did?
He's got no business being in a ring with the Smoky Mountain heavyweight champion. I have been robbed. There is a thief. I said there is a thief in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he goes by the name of White Lightning Tim Horner. If you was any kind of a man, if you had any guts whatsoever, you would come out here right now with my belt, and you'd say, Mr. White Boy, please don't kill me. I'm sorry. Here your belt is, but you won't do it because you're gutless. I want my belt.
I tell you, they've got me so tore up over all of this. My heart's acting up again. I'm even down with the gout. I can't even. Oh, easy, my leg, easy. My leg won't bend.
It's swollen.
I don't know what I'm going to do. They've got me in so much pain over wearing this. I'm wearing myself sick over these matches that are coming up. Oh, gee.
Oh, something. Horner and Garvin are two of a kind. You don't see Ronnie Garvin here, do you? You don't see him around here. Well, Horner's the same way. He's a coward. And if he was any kind of a man, he'd bring the belt back and do the honoring thing that you should do. Myself and the Dirty White Boy is going to take care of business come Christmas, brother. We're going to put so much pain and agony in their life that they wish that they never stepped into that ring.
All right, fans, that's the story right here from the Dirty White Boy.
That robe cost me $15,000.
And the man
Let him a lot of
looking
money.
for that championship belt. We'll be back right after this.
Okay, so the star of this, actually, it's hard to pick a star, but, you know, we have Mr. Ron Wright, who's so torn up about this, and now his legs are swollen up, and he's got gout, thanks to Horner stealing the title. You know, that, how dare Horner steal the title and give poor Mr. Ron Wright, our old gentlemanly, kindly old wrestler, how dare you give him gout and swollen legs? And, you know, Orndorff just yells and screams, and it's sad that we're almost at the end of the Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff era here in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but, you know, you might as well enjoy it while he's still here. And White Boy basically said that Paul Lee had no business being in the ring with him, which, hey, you know, it got him over strong. It was a, you know, and here's the thing, too, that White Boy is also picking up by being aligned with Orndorff. Orndorff, we've talked about Orndorff squash matches earlier this year, and while a couple of them, you know, have been a little bit more competitive, his matches, it's like you have to fight for what you get. And Orndorff is not just going to roll over and play dead for you. You have to fight back. And that's something Dirty White Boy is picking up on. And while obviously he's not in the same, you know, league of Paul Orndorff, he's getting better. And you can watch him getting better over the past year that we've seen him here on this show. So this has been a great alliance, you know, for both of them, because it's giving Orndorff, you know, Orndorff's putting, you know, his credibility, he's putting his fame, you know, here, and he's lending it over to Dirty White Boy. White Boy's learning. They're a good act together. You got Mr. Ron Wright, who, you know, just completes the trio, and it's fantastic. So we finish things up with our main event here today. It is Kevin Sullivan with the Night Stalker versus Dixie Dy-no-mite. We mentioned earlier that Tracy Smothers would be loved even if he didn't drape himself in the Confederate flag. Honestly, I have my doubts that we could say the same about Dixie. That if he just came out without a mask and said that he was Scott Armstrong, he'd probably get. I'm not saying he wouldn't be popular. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying, like, most of what makes Dixie Dy-no-mite, popular is the fact that he's draped in the Confederate flag. And we can fight all day about the Confederate flag. I'm not going to. This isn't the place for it. But in 1992, at this point in this part of the country, hell, for fuck's sake, if you were in this part of the country nowadays, I'd probably get you over pretty big. But especially in 92, when sensibilities were different, it was, it was basically a guarantee to get you over at the time. So anyway, Sullivan tries to get an early advantage, but Dixie's too fast. Sullivan threw him out of the ring, and Night Stalker tried to cheat, but Dixie pushed him into the post. Sullivan finally takes over and sends Dixie into the post and on the barricade. There is a 7-ish-year-old kid who tries to come to Dixie's aid, and an adult literally runs over to tell him not to do that as Sullivan does the underarm nerve pinch. Dixie hits the Confederate kick, which sends Sullivan out of the ring. He gives Night Stalker a Confederate kick, and Night Stalker gets tired of getting his ass kicked, and he attacks from behind for the disqualification. At this point, Sullivan grabs a coat hanger and wraps it around Dixie's neck, and they drag him backstage. And we see, like, they show children, and they are legitimately worried about what's going on to Dixie Dy-no-mite as, Sullivan is choking him with this coat hanger and dragging him away. And I'm not saying Dixie is out with an injury, but I don't believe he wrestles at all in the next taping. But, we'll get to that when we get to it. So I want to point out, by the way, on this TV taping, they taped 3 episodes. There were 2 Kevin Sullivan matches and 1 Night Stalker match, and they went 0 for 3. I mean, they were all disqualifications, but they were 0 for 3 in the past month here on TV. So from here, they deposit Dixie Dy-no-mite somewhere backstage and come back out for a show closing promo. So let's go to Sullivan, Night Stalker, and Bob Caudle.
Fans and women, right now, here is the master Kevin Sullivan and the Night Stalker. And Stark, it was his match. You were in there as much as he was.
Commissioner Bob Armstrong, and you're very sadly mistaken if you think for 1 second that you can stop the master and you can stop the Night Stalker. Bring anybody you want. Mongolian Stomper, Brian Lee, come out of the hospital so I can break you in half. Because you cannot stop the master.
One thing, Kevin Sullivan. That's the last time you'll put a coat hanger around anybody's neck. Let me tell you, if the Stomper can't do it in prime time, Brownlee, I'm going to find somebody to get you out of Smoky Mountain. I'm going to make it so hot. I'm going to make it so hot you can't stand the heat, Kevin Sullivan.
Well, Mr. Armstrong, Commissioner, I love the heat. And believe me, I'm legal. If you want to punch me, if you want to hit me, you're supposed to be responsible. You're supposed to be a responsible man. Maybe if you had gone and seen about Brian Lee, maybe if you told him what to do, Commissioner, it's a responsibility for a man of your stature to watch out for people's welfare.
Well,
and that goes for Brian Lee.
Let me tell you what to do, brother. Like I said, it's going to get so hot, brother. You're going to think your butt is sitting on the sun itself. It's going to get that hot for you before it's over with, and you are going to be out of here.
Well, it looks like the commissioner has lost his composure. Let me tell you one thing, Commissioner. We live and breathe in the hottest place known to man. Commissioner Armstrong, it will be a cold day in hell when you get rid of me and the Night Stalker.
All right, fans, and that's going to wrap it up for this week. Next week, 1992 in review and highlights of Christmas chaos. We'll see you then.
Okay. So they are doing an amazing job building to a match that I'm pretty sure doesn't happen. I am 99% sure that Kevin Sullivan does not wrestle Bullet Bob Armstrong. However, Jesus Christ, I want Bullet Bob to punch this motherfucker. I want Bullet Bob to snap. I want him to kick Sullivan's ass. Like I said, I am 99% sure that that does not happen. Because I know Bullet Bob, he does eventually, get into a feud where he's actually wrestling, but it's with Cornette. But, you know, there may have been a Sullivan match, but I don't think there was. But anyway, they're doing a great job of playing up Sullivan getting under Bullet Bob Armstrong's skin. And you can watch, like you don't even have to listen to the promo. If you're just watching, Bullet Bob is like, just like, I'm gonna kick this little man's ass one of these days. And he's almost shaking in anger when Sullivan's cutting this promo, and he's vowing to, send him to the hottest place on earth. And I made the joke that I didn't know Florida was that hot, but it's like all I'm left sitting here going is, oh my god, why isn't Bullet Bob going to wrestle Kevin Sullivan at some point? Like I feel like one of those things, like it almost has to happen. And let me see here. So I do have a update here. Technically, they do wrestle at the end of 1993. Spoiler alert. They are going to have a series of matches on the next Thanksgiving Thunder card. And that is pretty much it. Now, we'll get to that when we get to that here. But that is, going through everything else, because I know Sullivan, he's not here, for the entire next year. But Sullivan, you know, does make sporadic appearances at least through the next year. Let me actually see how long he's around for. Because I know there's a pretty big moment coming up here with him that's going to be on TV before he leaves. Um, so by the looks of it, he's here pretty much full time through May, and then he makes sporadic appearances throughout the rest of the year. And his last appearance is on a house show in March 1994, which honestly, I'm a little surprised because I know he's back in WCW around that point. And that's not the friendly WCW that they currently have with Bill Watts, even though, Watts is about to be out the door too. But that's going to do it for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. 48 down, 152 to go. Cottle says the next year is a year in review show, and he says highlights of Christmas Chaos. Spoiler alert, there are no highlights of Christmas Chaos next week. It's all year in review. And because we vowed to do 200 episodes, we're actually going to review that show next week. Stupid vow of this show. If I would have said I'm only going to review 188 episodes, I could have skipped all of these review episodes and preview episodes that we're going to get. But, oh well, we'll talk about the year in review next year, and next week. And there's actually, there's a lot of good shit that's happened this past year. And, they don't cover it all, but they cover a lot of it. But we'll get to that next week. And that brings us to the end of 1992. And this is a promotion that's been going on since February 1st, 1992. And actually, if you want to be technical, the companies were going on around since October of 91. That was when they taped the first two TV shows. And then November 1991, they taped the second two TV shows. So pretty much they had a month of TV before 1992 even happened. So, but for all intents and purposes, it's a company that began on February 1st, 1992. We're here on December 26th, 1992, and they've grown, pretty well here. They've gotten to the point where, these Christmas Chaos shows, and yeah, they got cheap tickets, but they're up to, 1,700 people, which, hey, I'll take it. We will actually see some highlights of Christmas Chaos, but it's in 2 weeks, not next week. But before we go, I want to talk about what else is happening in the world of wrestling. I guess I'll always talk about, I can tell you December 26, 1992 until I'm blue in the face, but this time giving some context to let you know that, oh, yeah, this also happened. So you kind of get the idea of like, okay, A and B happened at the same time. So this week, Starrcade happened, the 10th annual Starrcade, which was paced by 2 excellent matches, one with Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas versus Barry Windham and Brian Pillman for the tag team titles, and a Sting versus Vader match. The problem is the rest of the show, not so much. There was only one other good match on the rest of the show, and it's a show that featured Masa Chono versus the Great Muta, which nobody cared about. And that NWA title, it's like got the weirdest legacy in 1992. So Masa Chono had, like, in Japan, he wrestled Rick Rude in a 1992 Best Match of the Year contender, and he's about to wrestle Great Muta in a 1993 Best Match of the Year contender. Meanwhile, on U.S. soil, he wrestled Rick Rude in the worst match in 1992 and Great Muta in a match that, for all intents and purposes, also sucked. Mostly because the crowd just, I don't want to say they shit on it, but they were dead for it. They, neither of the people were over, and this just wasn't the right match in front of this crowd. Also on the card, Rick Rude was scheduled to wrestle Ron Simmons for the world title, but he was injured and substituted by Dr. Death Steve Williams, and Great Muta ended the show by winning the Battle Bowl 8-man Battle Royal. And the only other major news of note is Ric Flair has been talking to Vince McMahon about a contract release so he could go back to WCW, and currently his contract does not expire until September of 1993. I guess we'll see how that plays out. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Smoky Mountain Re-Watch-Along Project. I want to thank everybody for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you again next week.